back to Families in Action, brought to you by your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. Wasn't that awesome how Peter took control and took us on that break right before?
You know
Somebody's got to do what he says.
I mean, we come in here every week and we sit down and we do our show.
Right.
But we couldn't do it without Peter. I mean, really, I want to thank you. I mean, you're awesome and you help us lots and you keep us in check.
Wow,
So,
look at that.
really,
Yeah,
thank
he's
you.
okay.
Yeah, isn't he a good guy?
We like him.
I don't care what everyone else says. I like
Everyone else.
Yes.
Peter Urbina, right?
Yeah, that's right, Peter Urbina. Is that what I said last
There's
week?
some validity to that. I have my champion life leadership.
He's the life leadership guy from Alex Urbina's show coming up next, right?
Yeah, that's it, huh?
So, now that we started talking about some of the things that we're doing as a whole with Action, the intervention efforts in the city of Santa Clarita, in conjunction with the advent of the J team and all that's going on, and on board with the school districts, that's a big deal to make that shift in Santa Clarita. You want to talk a little bit about that, Cary?
I'll let you.
Okay.
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is that it takes a village, and I think I firmly believe that this village is pretty awesome, and, especially when it comes to different organizations taking responsibility for all the results, including the deaths that we had last year, and saying, you know what, no more, it's enough, and everybody jumping in and partnering up, and really, I think the numbers are lower this year, which is a direct result to everybody's contribution.
The numbers are definitely lower.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we still have too many.
Absolutely,
one's too many.
That's right.
I heard of another one.
I did too. I saw
In this last week.
Yeah,
there was another young girl.
I saw it on Facebook. I'm not going to mention the name because I don't know much about what had happened, but I know who she was.
Yeah, and another sad tragedy. Young girl, right?
In her 20s.
Yep.
Young 20s.
So I don't know exactly the date, but I want to say it was somewhere around 2009, 2010, when Captain Paul Becker took over the sheriff's department, and I know the year 2010, Chrissy McAfee showed up at a city council meeting with her son's belongings, who had just died of a heroin overdose, and said, look, what are we as a city and as a community going to do about this? And they heard her loud and clear.
Isn't she wonderful?
She's incredible. I tell you what,
she really is incredible.
We were at an event. She and I went to this event, and it was a tri-city where, it wasn't an open event to the community, but it was different cities coming together to talk about what's going on, and it was pretty recent. And Ken Striplin mentioned in the beginning that when she showed up at that city hall meeting, that it sort of really set the ball rolling on what's going on with us in Santa Clarita today. So absolutely, and she was in tears because she didn't know it had that big of an impact. But what happened was, they heard her and other parents like her, and we as a community got together and said, we're not doing it anymore. And Captain Becker started a thing called the Juvenile Intervention Team, J Team, and brought some officers in to run that team. Deputies in to run that team, and what they're doing that isn't being done in a lot of other places is, rather than just prosecute and have criminal charges against people who are using that are local citizens, youth, right? That we're gonna circumvent them into treatment facilities and give them the interventions that they need, and the success rate has just been incredible.
I'll tell you, it doesn't feel like that sometimes because you're dealing with youngsters and their brain isn't functioning exactly correctly, so a lot of them come in treatment and then they're back and forth. But I'll tell you, in the last, I think, a week or two, we've given 5 cakes for over a year sober and clean from kids that were involved in that.
Right.
So that's pretty incredible.
Well, and it is, I don't know exactly what their success rates are, but I think it's a really, really small number who they're seeing more than once, which means that the recidivism rate is decreasing, a lot.
And I'll tell you, other cities, they're calling up wanting to know what they're doing.
Well, and at that little, I don't know what it was, symposium, the Tri-City thing that they were doing that we showed up for, I don't know the title of it, but it was a real incredible event. The other cities were saying, wow, man, we want to do the stuff that you guys are doing in Santa Clarita, because it's working.
Look at Defiant. drug-free youth in town. How great is that?
Yeah, we were talking about that at the first segment of the show, and as a prevention effort. But it's incredible, right?
It is really incredible because we're never going to stop drugs from coming. There's always going to be another dealer. The cartel's going to come up with more dope. Whatever it is, there's always going to be more dope.
Did you know it was a $60 billion business a year?
Oh, yeah.
Sounds about right, yeah.
$60 billion.
The only way we're going to win this battle is by stopping the need.
The demand for it,
The demand for it. And that means starting when our kids are young and keeping those contracts they make when they're little, I'll never, hardwired into their middle schools and high schools. That's the only way we're going to win this deal, is by diminishing the need.
I'll never, and I don't need it.
Exactly.
Well, and it's funny.
But that's easy to say.
Yeah.
We have to get it hardwired in their brains. So it's got to start when they're young.
If you say it to yourself as an affirmation when you're young over and over again, what you say you start to believe.
Exactly.
And before you know it, it's just your motto. It's the way that you live your life.
Well, it's like when a parent's telling a kid, you're dumb, you're dumb,
exactly.
You'll never be anything. Guess what? They start to believe
That's
that.
right.
When we start telling our kids, hey, you're going to be successful, you're worth it, you're a good guy, they're going to believe that too.
Well,
but what to fight it, I mean, we have to go on and on and on and on and on with our kids. It's got to be a constant reminder, and this is giving them stuff to do.
To create that shift that you were talking about earlier. Right. Wouldn't it be cool, and maybe it's already happening, to see a world in the future where the role models are not... I remember growing up, and the role models were guys, and even before me, were the Marlon Brando smoking a cigarette, sitting on a Harley Davidson,
right.
James Dean and the Rebel, movie. And all of that different stuff, right?
Too.
And even to the point where, like, my brother's name is James Dean, right? And my dad named him specifically after that guy because of that image, right? And to undo that, the cool thing is not the smoking of the cigarette. The cool thing is not the lying and the cheating and the being the rebel, right? The cool thing is the guy who shows up in his family's life.
But you know what? I was watching the fights the other day, and Bernard Hopkins had won the championship. He's 50 years old, right?
Okay.
And he says, this is for the youngsters. He said, I never drank alcohol, I never smoked cigarettes, and I never used drugs, and that's why I can do this now.
That's awesome. You know, I was just looking back at some old magazines a couple weekends ago, and I was intrigued by the marketing that they did on the cigarettes and how cool they made it. They had these families that were dressed up really nice in suits, and they're walking, and they made it really so elegant. And I was like, no wonder why we had all this cancer as a result coming out of the 50s and 60s.
But you're right. They make it look elegant.
Yeah, we promoted it. Right.
It sure doesn't look elegant when you're laying in a hospital bed.
Well, those are today's commercials. They're showing you how, and it's not elegant, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And you know who's paying for those commercials? The tobacco companies.
Oh, of course.
So they're saying, here, buy us. Oh, by the way, we're going to kill you, but please buy us anyway.
I think there's a new commercial now about the beer. The cool guy that he drinks Dos Equis or something like that.
Yeah.
He's
right. There you go. There you go. Same pitch.
But drink responsibly.
That's right. That's right.
Come on. I think we need to take a break.
We do. Peter's giving us that look
again.
again.
Why don't you take us some break?
This is Families in Action, brought to you by your hometown station, AM 1220, KHTS.